Welcome, 8th grade civics students, to this explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here for Unit 1, Lesson 1. Okay, let's dive right into this and uncover exactly why societies build governments. It's a massive question, for sure, but it is literally the foundation of everything we're going to learn together this year. Here is the agenda for today. We'll start with a classroom-created model, talk about why we form a government, explore the rule of law, and look at limiting government power. Then we'll wrap up with a quick civics self-check, a recap, and a transfer prompt. Let's kick things off with Section 1, a classroom-created model. So to really understand civic organization, let's start right in your own learning environment. What happens if a large group tries to learn without any structure or rules? I mean, think about your own classroom for a second. Imagine trying to get anything done if everyone just did whatever they wanted. There are no schedules, no procedures for asking questions, and no one to step in and resolve a disagreement over who gets to use the whiteboard. Just take a second to picture what that room looks and sounds like. Now, I want to be super clear here that this is a created model, not a universal definition. But it brilliantly shows how a lack of rules creates chaos, not freedom. In this model, you get chaos during discussions, unfair speaking time, a real lack of safety, and extreme difficulty achieving common goals. Basically, only the loudest voices are heard, and achieving your shared goal of learning becomes almost impossible. You absolutely need a system. Which brings us right to Section 2. Why form a government? When we scale that classroom model up to a whole society, we really see why we need a system. Read this carefully. Governments help with coordination, safety, public goods such as schools, parks, and clean water, and fair conflict resolution. Without a central system, providing those essential things to everyone would be nearly impossible. And our history backs this up. The Declaration of Independence proves this historical foundation by stating this exact principle. It says, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Basically, this means that governments are created by the people, for the people, to secure unalienable rights, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And crucially, those just powers only exist because we, the people, agree to be governed. All right, let's move to Section 3, the rule of law. You see, it's one thing to agree to have a government. It's a whole other thing to make sure that government operates fairly. This is where the rule of law comes in. It's a principle where societal rules govern the people and institutions equally, rather than the arbitrary decisions of individuals. The rule of law helps protect liberty and limit arbitrary power, which is basically when someone just makes up rules on the spot because they feel like it. So instead of letting officials have absolute power, the rule of law holds everyone to the exact same written standards. It's an incredibly vital tool for maintaining a fair, predictable society. Next up, Section 4, limiting government power. So if government coordinates society, how do we make sure it doesn't get too powerful? How do we balance safety with your individual liberty? Well, let's look at the tools our founders used. To paraphrase our founding documents, the U.S. Constitution acts as the structural blueprint. It sets up the structure and branches of the government, dividing up the power. On the flip side, the Bill of Rights limits government power to protect individual liberties. It's essentially a boundary line. It ensures, for instance, that Congress can't just pass a law to take away your freedom of speech. Okay, time for Section 5, Civics Self-Check. Let's pause and see how well we're grasping all these concepts. Before we get to the questions, let's clear up a really common myth. There's this massive misconception that governments are only created to control people. But the reality? Governments are created to secure unalienable rights and provide public goods that we just couldn't easily secure on our own. It's really about organization and protection, not just bossing people around. All right, here is Self-Check 1. What is the main purpose of the Bill of Rights as it relates to government power? Take a brief second to formulate your answer. The answer is to limit government power and protect individual liberties. If you got that, you are spot on. The reasoning here is that by explicitly listing out your rights, like the right to peaceably assemble, the Bill of Rights places a firm, unbreakable limit on what the structured government is actually allowed to control. Let's try Self-Check 2. True or false? The rule of law means the government has absolute and unlimited power to make any rules it wants. Think back to that definition of arbitrary power we just talked about. The answer is false. The reasoning is that the rule of law actually does the exact opposite. It limits arbitrary power and ensures that even the lawmakers themselves are bound by the very same rules, which ultimately protects your liberty. Nobody gets to be above the law. And that brings us to our final section, recap and transfer prompt. Understanding these systems totally helps you figure out your own role within them. So here is your strict 3-sentence recap to lock in what we've learned today. Governments organize society and provide public goods. The rule of law limits arbitrary power to protect liberties. Foundational documents structure this delicate balance.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this transfer prompt to think about how these civic concepts directly impact your daily life. Look at this massive symbol of freedom on the screen and ask yourself, how would your local community change if one public good, like your clean water or local park, was suddenly removed? Think about the coordination, the rules, and the effort required just to keep those things running for us every single day. Keep that in your mind as you head into the rest of this unit. Thanks so much for joining me today.